video from my method, Working the Inner Clock Part 2, recorded in 7 different countries with fantastic guest artists from around the world.
With music, especially with drums, any musician needs to have a special relationship with time, right? Time is where we do our work. It's like our workspace. If you were a Formula One race car driver, it would be the track, right? Time is our track. We have to have a deep relationship with time. Now, a lot of people say finding one, let's say for example, if it's a jazz or complicated music that has a lot of over the bar line type of phrasing, you lose your place, you don't know where one is anymore, and you can't follow the timeline structure. Or maybe your time tends to speed up or slow down, or when you go to do your fills, you get faster or slower. All these are issues of inner clock work.
But inner clock work is much more than that. It's also your ability to feel the effects of subdivisions and phrases on time and music. When you have an awareness of this, it leads to an increased ability in creating setups and fills that are musical in the context of a phrase. In other words, that fit well and that have something to contribute to the effect of the phrase. These effects will help you decide the type of vocabulary you use on the kit, as they almost telegraph it to you when you're aware of this process. Other aspects of inner clock work will help you to function in timeline structures and musical form, give you the sensitivity and skill at creating tension and release in music. To create tension and release, you need to have timeline structures embedded in you. By timeline structures, I mean 4-bar phrases, 8-bar phrases, 12, 16, and on and on. I doubt that the average person could keep an 8-bar structure while playing in 3/4, for example. So this is something that we develop as musicians, feeling chunks of time without counting. In the next chapters, we will start by isolating these effects and learn how to use them in our playing. I consider this knowledge essential in learning how to develop a good feel, set up figures, soloing, and dealing with phrasing in general, phrasing in grooves, and phrasing in section and ensemble figures. To complement this, we're going to be working with one of my tracks called Avenue 5. This song, the title, basically says it all. You're doing the concept of groups of 5 working with 16th notes. There are many ways that you can work with this rhythmic concept. In this tune in particular, we're going to be using 2 accents to outline the groups of 5. You'll notice in the clip here, the rhythmic motif is being played as a groove. There are several ways that we're going to be working on this motif. As you see here in the clip, in a groove setting, as section figures, as ensemble figures, and of course in a solo setting. So that means soloing over a vamp that is outlining these particular figures. So let's start really basic so you can have an idea of what this concept is about. Play 16th notes on the hi-hat,
and accent groups of 5. It's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
In case you've never worked with these types of figures before, let's have a closer look and see exactly what's going on. Now, the numbers you see in red are outlining the groups of 5, meaning that every 5 notes, the sequence of 5 is going to start over. You see, we have 2 accents. The accents are outlining the groupings. One on the first 16th note and one on the third 16th note. The 5th 16th note in this group of 5 is on beat 2. So that's what I mean by groups of 5. Groups of 5 16th notes in 4/4 time. The accents are outlining the groupings. You can also play one accent to outline the groupings, but in this case we have 2. It's a very simple exercise and sounds great. You can also use 3 accents and a variety of combinations of the accents. Let's have a listen to that again.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay. Now I played that for 2 bars. It's going to be really important to not get lost in the timeline when you play these type of figures. This type of vocabulary can really throw you off the pulse, and you could lose your place in the timeline real easily. So the next step you want to take is just play on the snare drum with a hi-hat marking the pulses. 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to do it in 2 bars, and you want to do it in 4 bars. 8 bars, 12 bars, however long you want to extend it. This should really help you maintain your place in the timeline, which is a very important thing, especially if you're going to solo using this type of figures. Now, the reason you start here is so that you can build your timeline and have it come from an organic place. The next thing you want to do is transfer that phrase onto the bass drum. So now we have the basic groove of the tune. The bass drum plays the phrase, and here you just take 2 and 4 like a funk type of groove. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that was the phrase applied to the bass drum. In the song, I like to do different things in the hi-hat. This is a typical phrase I do all the time. Accenting on the pulse. 1, 2, 4. Right? You can do many things. You can play 2-handed 16th note figures. You can play 8th notes, whatever you like, whatever appeals to you. And ghost notes or not ghost notes. The most important thing is for you to internalize this groups of 5 concept. It's going to turn into an endless amount of vocabulary for you. So this tune is lots of fun because it gives you a chance to experiment with this concept.
On some sections of the tune, I go over to the ride cymbal. Remember that the ride cymbal opens up the song, and use it to its maximum potential on different sections, especially behind the soloists and choruses or outros. Check out this real basic pattern to see how it sounds.
So, sounds something like this. Okay, lots of fun, easy to do once you get the phrase into your system, and it can yield, again, tons of vocabulary for you in the future to work this out.
Let's have a look at the chart. The first thing you want to notice is that the rhythm of the bass line, the rhythm of the basic groove of the tune, is written on top of the staff. Now these are the groups of fives, the figures that the organ is playing and that the bass is playing. You follow this with your bass drum. All figures written on top of the staff are section figures or our group of five study. Now the figures written inside the staff are ensemble figures, and you should catch those as ensemble figures. The form of the tune is pretty simple. You'll have a 2-bar count off, the intro at the top of the page here, and you'll see those figures on bar 4. You want to make sure to catch those, watch the performance video and see how I did that. On the next line, you have a hit on the duh of 4 on the second bar. Then you have letter A. This is the verse, okay? The A section, basically. You want to notice that the groups of 5 are stretched out over 8-bar structures. In this section, you'll see the 8 bars, the repeat sign, 4 and 4, 8 bars. I did it this way because it's great to get used to playing these rhythmic structures for a long time. 8 bars is a pretty long time, and it's really good to do this so you won't get lost later when you're improvising with this type of rhythmic phrase. At letter B, there's a variation of the rhythm, okay? It's slightly different. It's starting in a different place, the groups of 5. So be aware of that. Also, it's in a 4-bar structure, okay? You'll see the repeat signs and a 4-bar structure. Letter C, we go back to the regular 8-bar structure of the groups of 5s, and we go to the letter D. On the first bar, we have some hits. This is kind of the first piece of a little groups of 5 phrase. And then on the second bar, you have a big hit on 2. All right, I added these hits that move around the timeline to make sure that you know where you're at. We move on to page 2. Be careful at the top of this page. There's a 1-bar fill there going into letter E. At letter E, we have these ensemble figures again, and again, we have the groups of 5. Watch out for the last bar of that line, where this ensemble figure blends into the next bar. If we continue on, you're going to see a fill marking at the end of that line there, and we go to letter F. It's an 8-bar phrase for this group of 5 section. And at measure 54, we have the ensemble figures again. Let's go to letter H. This is the piano solo. On the piano solo, you can do a little comping, you can play around with the figures. Again, watch the performance section to see what I'm doing here. At the last bar of this section, letter H, you're going to see last time big fill. That means you fill into the next part of the song. Page 3, letter I, piano solo continues. You have a hit on the duh of 4 on that first line there. And if we look down towards the center of the page, the 5th line, you're going to see figures. The first bar on 1, and then the second bar on 4, and the end of 4. On the last bar there, the duh of 4 and the 1. So this is a nice little ensemble section that you hit under the piano solo. At measure 103, 3rd line from the bottom, we have some figures on the second bar, and you're going to see a fill marking. That's 1.5 bars of fill, so make sure you don't get lost if you're doing the groups of 5 type phrasing. Letter J is the drum solo. Basically, we have the figure in an 8-bar phrase. You're going to solo over this figure in 8 bars. It's really good to get your figures to kind of match the structure of the music. Watch the performance section and kind of see what I'm doing. If you take notice of how I'm phrasing the drum solo, you'll get a really good idea of what my thoughts are behind this type of phrasing. Your ability to play long timeline structures with these types of phrases is very important because it helps you to create tension and release. At the bottom of the page, you're going to see it says last time DS al coda. So you have the DS sign here, then you jump to the DS sign on the second page, it's measure 54. You go down through letter G to the coda, and you jump to the coda on page 4. On page 4, we have the outro of the tune. You're going to see it says ride symbol there. I like to go to the ride on the outro to really help build the tension. And we have ensemble figures and section figures here. You have a first ending with repeat signs, and on the last bar here you have some figures that you have to catch. And that's the end of the tune. Let's go back to the studio now.
Okay, that's Groups of Five. For the full package on Groups of Five, check out my online lesson series if you really want to get into it and to the full extent of this concept. Let's go. Have fun with this.
To get the play along and chart, become a member of my lesson site where this method and so much more is waiting for you.